Hello, friends and fellow seekers of the good to beautiful. It's Mike here, and today I wanted to share with you an audio clip that I actually created back in May of 2024. This was when I was just finishing up the writing on the last bit of the fourth book in the series, the book the Word That Prevails, and I was writing this to my Patreon community, and it was all about the character of Gideon Dawning. So in this clip, I shared with my Patreon supporters a lot about the background of Gideon Dawning, about who this character is, about how he came into his life as an adult, what happened to him in childhood, what made him into the man that he is when we first meet him at the beginning of the story of Gideon's Dawn. And I thought, now that we're at the stage where the first two books are out and the second two books are coming out December 2nd, I figured this was a very good time to really pull back the veil on this somewhat enigmatic character of Gideon Dawning himself, and just let you in on just who this guy is, or the way that I experienced him, especially at the beginning when we first encounter him, and how he represents, I think, a lot of us as we come into to life. I mean, I should say, as you'll hear, he's a very troubled man, and has quite a few struggles as he enters into the tale, and that's part of what makes the tale as interesting as it is. But even with that, there's a kind of everyman to him that I think is part of his appeal. So in just a few seconds here, I'm gonna switch over to that recording and give you hints about what's going on with him. I will say that there are some minor spoilers in this about things that have happened to Gideon in his childhood that are not revealed until a little bit later in the actual narrative. So be aware of that. Nothing that spoils the actual story itself, but will be somewhat revealing about him as a character. So be mindful of that as you listen, but just wanted to give you the heads up on that. So here is the recording of Gideon Dawning that I made back in May of 2024. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about him and about why he is the protagonist of the story. It's interesting because I don't feel as though I came up with Gideon. I think a lot of writers do talk about this. He just sort of appeared in my imagination as I was thinking about this idea of a world where words could kill. I feel like he chose me. I feel like he came and said, "Hey, I want you to write my story. I want you to write this story." But there are some things about him that are parallel to my life, mainly because there are things that I'm familiar with, like Gideon is from Austin. Gideon went to the University of Texas. Gideon was a geology professor, or is a geology professor. I went to the University of Texas. I'm from Austin. I studied geophysics in university. So there's some parallels like that have more to do with the fact that I know those things, so it makes them familiar. And there are some things about Gideon that are parallel to my story in a deeper sense, and I think he does, in fact, represent some of the aspects of my own psyche in the way that I've worked through certain struggles in my own life, although Gideon has made decisions in the story that are different from the ones I have made. So it's an interesting interplay between the character and me, between the character of Gideon and me as the writer. So, but I will say Gideon is not me. He is his own guy. So when we meet him, he's 32 years old. He comes from a family of 4, although it is a broken family. He has a mom and a dad and a brother, and he is the older of the 2. His brother's name is Jacob, and he, of course, is Gideon. His father in the story is a horribly abusive man. And as Gideon grows up, that abuse is aimed toward Gideon's mother and toward Gideon himself. So he grows up in this home where they are in terror of this man whose name is Abe. And Abe's abuse is severe, and it is verbal, it is physical, and it is sexual. So it's all over the map. And so Gideon ends up being in this really untenable situation growing up where he is terrified, obviously, all the time. The only person of safety he can go to, which is his mother, is also a victim in the scenario. And as we learn a little later, she's complicit in his abuse because she will at times enable and coordinate the abuse of Gideon's father with Gideon because it helps create peace in the system. And so it's very messed up. Somewhere around Gideon's 6th or 7th year, or maybe it was his 8th or 9th year, I can't remember exactly, his father ends up leaving and leaves the family. And because of this, Gideon's younger brother, Jacob, never gets abused in the same way by their father. As a result of this, Jacob doesn't believe Gideon, and Jacob doesn't believe their mother. He doesn't accept that their father, he wants to believe in his dad, right? So this creates this dynamic where not only is Gideon estranged from his father, not only is he estranged from and now he's estranged from his brother because his brother doesn't believe him. He's estranged from his mother because his mother has been passively complicit in his own abuse, but also because his mother, his family has Jewish heritage. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. They're Jewish by heritage, but his father, Abe, has completely forsaken his Jewish heritage. He doesn't even consider himself a Jew, never has. His mother does consider herself a Jew, but somewhere along the line in Gideon's childhood, she converted to Messianic Judaism. She believes that Jesus is the Messiah. And when she did this, it was for Gideon a bridge too far. It was like he could appreciate his Jewish heritage, but when she started believing in Jesus, he thought she'd gone a little nuts. And she started getting really devout, very over the top with it, praying over him all the time, trying to convince him to believe in Yeshua, and he was having none of it. So all of that estranged him from her. So he was this very broken, very shattered boy coming into adulthood with no safe place to be, no safe relationship around him, no one to talk to about it, no way to process it. So I think of him, as the writer, I think of him as a disabled person, in the sense that he is emotionally disabled. He doesn't have the capacity to bond or to connect or to be in any kind of healthy, intimate relationship, whether it's a friendship or perhaps even an acquaintance is too much for him. Like a friendly acquaintance, or you might say a casual friend, probably too much for him. The only thing Gideon has going for him is he's smart. And he reads people really, really well. And he does that as a part of his trauma response. He had to learn how to read his parents because his life depended on it. So he learned how to read his dad, to read his mom, to know whether or not it was safe to come out of his room, all of that. And So he's good at that. He can read people well, and he's very smart. So he found his niche in the world became academics. Because he was smart, or is smart, because he could read people well, he could combine those two things together to essentially become a bookworm, become a nerd. So he gravitated, of course, away from people. So he started studying rocks. He liked nature. He never really got into sports, but he liked being outside. So he liked nature, got into, away from people, right? So he got into nature, got into geology. Found that his mind was quick. He began to excel at that. He excelled beyond his peers in some of that. The problem was, even though he was very, very brilliant at what he did, the problem was he had very rough edges. He was cynical. He was acerbic. He was abrasive and difficult to be around. And the issue for him was that he just didn't trust anybody. And he typically thought everybody had an angle. And he was always suspicious of anyone who would come near to him or try to come near to him, because everybody was a potential abuser. I mean, it kind of makes sense. The people who were closest to him in his life were either abusers or they didn't believe him, or they thought he was a liar. So he had nobody in his inner circle who was safe or loved him well. So this was just him. So as a result, when we meet him, he's very difficult to like. And I knew this was going to be a very challenging thing for the story and for the reader, because he's the protagonist and he's the guy that you need to follow, to kind of lock arms with and say, let's go. I'll go on this journey with you. And it isn't essential in a story like this, or any story, for you to like the protagonist. You don't have to like them, but you do have to want them to win. You do have to kind of want them to make it in some way, to hope for them, you might say. You have to have some hope for them. And so my challenge at the beginning of Gideon's Dawn, the book, was to present Gideon in his awkward, broken state as honestly as I could, and at the same time provide enough hope that he had a spark of redemptive potential within him. And you can see it, I think you can see it in a couple of ways. One is, he finds out when he's about 18 years old, he starts having these nightmares where he sleepwalks, but he doesn't remember the dreams, but he's violent in the sleepwalking. So he gets up out of bed and he starts destroying things. He wrecks his room. He damages stuff all around him. And because of this, he becomes more isolated. And it's for two reasons, really. It's because he doesn't want to hurt anybody, and that is legit. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. So that's something that is a tick mark in his favor. It's also, though, because he has so much shame that he doesn't want anyone to know that he has this debilitating condition. So he's constantly self-protecting to try to keep people from knowing that he has what he calls rages. He's also just, the way he deals with people is abrasive, but how would I put it? Tolerant. I guess I'd say he wants to be accepted as a part of society, and he wants to do good in society, even though he has all of these cards stacked against him. So there's something in him that keeps him wanting to be in the game of life, and he doesn't even know what it is. But what I hope for is that we hope for him, that there's something in him that's hoping for a better story. And that's what we're hoping for him too. So that's, when we come into the story, that's him. And so one of the biggest questions that the whole story asks, that all 4 books asks, is basically this: is anyone too far gone for grace to redeem? Is it possible to be so utterly broken, to be so messed up by life, to have so many hits and cuts and bruises and broken bones internally in your soul, to be like just so messed up by what's happened to you, that there is no coming back? There is no way for you to be healed or whole again. And the best you can hope for is a kind of awkward hobbling through life. This is what Gideon believes when he comes into the story with us. He believes that he is a hopeless case, that the best story he can have is that he is a broken vessel that has to hide his brokenness as best he can and hobble his way through life, but to try to do it in a way where he can, at least through his intellect, he can shine. Like to try to do it in some way where at least in one way he can shine, he can be okay, he can show up in life and actually excel, even if he sucks in every other possible way. That's the question that's asked, and that's the question that's posed to the reader. Are you too far gone? Is there anything in you that is too far, is too broken for grace to redeem? Gideon, I should point out, at the time we meet him, has never had an intimate relationship. I mean, he's had one-night stands. He's had, he's not a virgin, but I mean, he's not ever had a close relationship with anybody. He's not even had a close friendship. So he is utterly isolated. And so when he comes into the story of the inherited lands and finds himself thrust in a position where he has to be in community with other people, it's all super outside his comfort zone, super outside his known world. So we see him using every skill he has in his intellect to try to navigate that, because it is so difficult for him. So I'm hoping that even that is somewhat endearing for the reader. The one thing I will say that, and I'll close with this, but the one thing I will say about Gideon that I like the most is that despite everything else, despite what his father did, what his mother did, what his brother did, despite his isolation and the deep wound that he had, he still was earnest in the sense that he wanted to do good in the world. He did not want to be an evil person. And there are so many people who do. Like they get hit, broken, cut, bruised, whatever, and they kind of go, well, okay then, F it. I'm going to go ahead and be this. If that's what the world wants, then I'm going to do that. And Gideon never went down that road. He always wanted to hold somehow close to the light as he could. That to me is his most redeeming quality, and I think it's what saves him in the story. So that's Gideon Dawning. And of course, by the time we get to book 4, he is a different person. So this is who we meet at the beginning. And then we go with him on a journey where he finds out the answer to that question. Is anyone too far gone? Is anyone too far gone for grace to redeem? So there you go. That's what I recorded about Gideon Dawning back in May of 2024, and just want to thank you guys for taking a little trip into the mind and psyche of Gideon Dawning. And thank you too for all you guys, as always, who've been so generous with your reviews of Gideon Dawning and Waymaker up on Amazon and on Goodreads. Please keep those reviews coming. They're the lifeblood of the series. And by way of reminder, the books 3 and 4 are releasing on December 2nd. They are available for pre-order right now on Amazon. Would love to have you go ahead and order those for pre-order. That helps generate buzz for the books through the Amazon algorithm. And if you're enjoying the books, please tell someone about them and spread the word about them. All of these books make terrific gifts for other people in your life. Christmas is coming up before too long, before you know it. So if you're already thinking in those terms, I encourage you to think about these books for that. That would be a terrific way to help both promote the series and to gift someone else with a beautiful story to read. So that's it for today. Just excited to share this with you, and I look forward to connecting with you again another time. Have a good one, guys.